चालू करो. Hello everyone, welcome back in Hotel Mammon video lecture. Myself Arvind Chauhan, Assistant Professor, BBD University, Lucknow. I'm here to deliver a lecture on your food and beverage service, which is given topic. Hello everyone, welcome to the next video of your second unit syllabus. In this video, we will discuss about your table wine production of table wine. Okay, so in the previous video we have discussed about the what are the classification of wine and how the wine is classified. Okay, so in this video we will discuss about the step of making still wine. All right, so start with this again. Second again, we start with the definition of wine. Wine is the fermented juice of any fruit, vegetables. You can make wine from almost any substance that contains sugar, typically found in fruits, and five basic type of wines are the red wine, white wine, rosé wine, sparkling wine, carbonated, fortified wines with a high alcoholic content. Always remember this point: the fortified wines are very high alcoholic content. For example, Sherry, Port Madeira, Marsala, Malaga. These are the fortified wines. Fortified means we have to fortify adding some extra alcohol on it. That is called the fortified wines. Okay, so start with the wine making, how the people make the wine. Wine making is an art of making wine. Okay, it involves working with grape juice, natural sugar, water, grape solids, and yeast to achieve a balance of wine qualities. All right, sweetness. What are the qualities? Sweetness, acidity, alcohol content. Sweetness, acidity, alcohol content. It is very important in a grape which is ready for production of the wine making. All right, why the grapes is important? The wine from the grape possesses a good combination of these qualities. While natural occurring yeast on the grapes will work, winemakers tend to use develop yeast today stains of yeast today. Okay, the next step, and it is start in the vineyard at harvest. So where the wine is start, they start the wine making. Now start the harvesting of the grape is from the vineyard at the harvest. So the first step of making wine is harvesting the grapes. All right. It is important to wait until the grapes reach the proper maturity for the varietal of grapes and style of wine being made. As the grape ripen, the sugar level can increase. As the grape is ripened, the sugar level will increase and the acidity will decrease. All right. So you have to remember this point. When the grape is ripened, the sugar level will and come more, and the acidity level will become decreases. All right. The sugar level is measured by the unit which is name is Brix. It is very important. No one can answer this. Brix is a unit to measure the level of sugar content. How much level there in a grapes. All right. So this is the way how to measure the sugar level into the grapes. Wine grapes are usually harvested at the Brix of 22 to 28. This is the measuring scale point, right? So you have to make sure, right, to 22 to 28 it is the level of measuring the sugar into the grapes. Okay, ripen will depend on many factors such as the temperature, amount of sun and rainfall, availability of nutrients, etc. The grapes can be harvested manually or by mechanical pickers. Manually pickers grapes are typically higher quality. All right. So ripen will depend on the many factors such as temperature, amount of sun, and rainfall. Okay. So these are the factors which affect to grapes. All right. Here you can see in this picture manual picking the while harvesting the grapes, the people, there is either the two way, there is two methods to picking the grapes. One is the manual picking and second one is the mechanical picking by the machinery. All right, and it is written over here. Manual picking grapes are typically higher quality. If you pluck by the hand, that would be very good because you will not lose your sugar content in the grapes. If the mechanical picking, maybe there is a chances to lose your sugar content into the grapes. All right. Okay, moving to the next slide. After harvesting, the grapes are transported to winery where they undergo destimation and crushing. There are variety of processes that are used to produce the juices, which is called must. All right. After the harvesting, after the harvesting, you have to pick up the grapes and you put into the cursor. The grapes are transported to winery when they undergo destillating and crushing. So where the wine is made is called the wineries. Okay, the particular wine is come from the particular kind of wineries. Okay, there are varietal of pressure that are used to produce the juices, which called must. Okay, when you crush the grapes, the juice will come out separately, and must will come in different section. All right, the sugar in the wine is used by yeast to produce ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide gas, thus making the wine. The type of yeast can affect the quality of the wine as other compound in some wine, some natural occurring and some that are byproduct of the winemaking process. As you can see here, there is a cursor. You put the grapes, whole bunches of grapes here. It will crush, and a small bladder press. Here there is a pressing process. Then this is again a pressing process. That is large rotatory bezel. You have to put the grapes, and by machinery, the grapes will come out, and the must will become go in a different section. All right. How is the wine made again? Fermentation and aging. After the fermentation, after crushing, the fermentation is transferred to large refrigerated stainless steel tank where it is fermented to produce wine. Okay, so after the crushing, you have to send the whole mixture in a large refrigerated stainless steel tank where it is fermented to produce the wine. Okay, as you can see here, this is the fermentation tank, and this is the active yeast cells, barrel filling, and the barrel aging. So once the fermentation is complete, the wine can be transferred to oak barrels for aging for 6 to 24 months, but not all wine is oak is. All right. The barrel are usually made from either French or American oak, which gives different quality to the wines. Some wines is aged in old barrels, and some in the new produce different characteristic as well. The winemaker will then blend the various lots of wine to produce the finished wine ready for the bottling. As you can see in this picture, there is a written over here fermentation tanks and the barrel fillings. So when suppose we make a different wine in a different aging system, different barrels, we have the wine in different barrels. When we mix together, that would be blending of the wine. That is the called blending of the wine. Okay, the how the wine makes again, the bottling and cellaring. See, the bottling, after the wine is completed, it is transferred to bottles. Most wine is consumed when 3 years of the bottle, but some few wines gain added flavor and bucket with the time in the bottle if it is stored at 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Always remember the temperature of the bottle. When you want to store the wine, it should be 15 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, but humidity is also important so that the cork do not dry out, which spoil the wine. Okay, if the cork is become dry, might be your wine become soiled. All right, the wine commonly aged in the bottles are Cabernet Sauvignon, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Champagne, Port, and say these are the examples of the wine. Okay, Now this is again an important point, differences in making red and white wines. So as you can see here, there is a two column. One is the white wine and second one is the red wine. One side the grapes for white wine are harvested and pressed. The must is fermented in stainless steel tanks. See the again simple process. You have to harvest the grape first, then you have to do the crushing. After the crushing, you have to send the whole juice for the pressing. After the pressing section, then you have to store the whole mixture to the stainless steel tank. Then it's come for the process of fermentation. After the fermentation process, you have to add, like you have to check the quantity of your mixture, like you have a sufficient sugar content or not, you have a sufficient yeast to ferment your product. All right. Some white wines such as Chardonnay is aged in oak barrels. The wine is bottled. Most white wine are not bottled, aged but consumed within 3 years of bottling. Harvest and exception is particularly fine wines made from Chardonnay and Champions. And the red wines, grapes for the red wine and harvest and crush. Of course, if you are making the red wines, you will select the red grapes. The must is left with the skins during fermentation to produce the red color. Red wine is commonly aged in oak barrels for 6 to 24 months. The wine is bottled. Many red wines are ready to drink after bottling. However, some red wines such as Cabernet Sauvignon will benefit with some bottle age. Okay, here you can see the blessed wines. Red red grapes are harvested for rosé or blessed wines. Before fermentation, the must is left with the skin for a short time. The must is fermented in a stainless steel tank. If a sweet will be desired, then the fermentation is stopped before all the sugar is consumed. The wine is bottled. Blessed wine are not commonly bottled but consumed year of. Okay, Champagne are the wine which is harvested with the press. It is a fermented like the white wine. The more sugar and yeast is added to the wine. The wine is bottled. The additional sugar and yeast produce carbon dioxide which carbonate with the wine. The second fermentation is stopped. Most sparkling wine are made to drink young, but the fine champagne will benefit with additional bottle of age. Okay, the fortified wines, the grapes for fortified wines are depending on the type of wine. The must may be handled in different way to intensify the flavor before the during fermentation. Most fortified wines have an addition of alcohol like brandy to stop the fermentation and increase the alcoholic content. Fortified wines may be aged in oak barrels before bottling. Many fortified wines will benefit with bottle age. Okay, so here you can see the step involving processing of grapes, processing of the wine by the red and white, which are the table wines, the harvesting, crushing, pressing, fermentation, secondary fermentation, aging, filter, pulling out the residue left in the wine and bottling. These are the steps which are involved in making the wine. All right. Now you can see here the difference between the red wine and the white wines. Harvest, same in a white wine, harvest, crushing, fermentation, then secondary fermentation, press, separate juice, aging, filter and bottling. What you have to do in the white wines, the only difference is you have to remove the skin. If you are making red wine, if you are making if you are making red grape, you are if you are making white wine from the red grapes, you have to remove the skins of the red grapes. Okay, and all are the same. Instead of you use red in while making red wine, you can use the red grapes. While making white wine, you have to use the white grapes. All right. Okay, harvesting or picking the first step in actual wine making process. The harvest or harvesting the grape at the prices time. Okay, And crushing and pressing, the grape are being crushed and pressed by mechanical press that become grape juice magical. In fermentation process, the fermentation is the process where sugar is converting to alcohol. So the fermentation is a process where the sugar is converted to the alcohol. The must, which is juice, skin, pulp, and cheese, is transferred to the fermentation tank, which may be wooden or a stainless steel vat. They must contain wild yeast, wine, yeast, and acetobacter. A wine is spoiled mold. If the mold and the wild yeast are allowed to develop, the wine will be spoiled. Alright? By the addition of sulfur dioxide to the must, the winemaker prevents the bacterial contamination and kills the harmful waste, wild yeast, and the vinegar forming acetobacter bacteria. Alright? Clarification, how the clarification do. The wine is being decanted from a tank or barrel, leaving participants and solid in the bottom of the fermentation tank. The winemakers are adding egg white, clay, or other compound to clarify the wines. After the clarification, the aging and the bottling, the final stage of the wine making process, the aging is holding in barrels, the winemakers in verifying the bottling. You can see here the picture. Thank you. Okay, here you can see the grapes. The first step is cursor. You have to put the grapes inside this box, and this come the step 3 is pressing of the grapes, and then tank 4 is for the fermentation. After the pressing, all the must come to the fermentation process. After the fermentation process, it will filter. It will like the barrels, and then filters, then the bottling, and then the aging. Right, so, the grapes are converted to the de-steamer, crushed where the grapes, leaf, and stem are removed, and grapes are crushed. Okay, where you have to remove the grape skins and grape stems and the leaves. Fermentation: the most red grapes go to the fermentation for primary fermentation, while most white grapes are prior, pressed prior to fermentation. Yeast is added to start the fermentation. All right. The yeast is added to start the fermentation. Pressing: after fermentation, red wines go to press to separate the wine from the grape skins. Tank: most wine are settled in large stainless steel or upright oak tanks. In the tank, that's step number 4, you can see the tank. The most wine are settled in large stainless steel upright oak tanks. Number 5, the barrels. After setting, the red wine and fuller bodies white wine are put into the small oak barrels for barrel aging. In filtering after a barrel aging, the period to bottling, some wine are filtered to help stabilize and clarify them. Step 7, bottle finish, wine are bottled. Step 8, aging, optional, wine may be aged or further in a bottle. Okay. So in the vineyard, the acid peaked when the grape's pH is approximately